6 squared is positive 36. Negative 4 times 1 times 7 is negative.
Fat Math, the right path to develop the fat brain that you've got. Hello everyone and welcome to Fat Math TV.
In this video, you will learn how to solve quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. What is the quadratic formula? If ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, then x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that is if you write your quadratic equation in standard form, where a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant term, then x can be obtained by using this formula. This formula can be derived by using the completing the square process. Okay, let us have an example. Example number 1. Solve by using the quadratic formula. X squared plus 13x plus 12 equals 0. As what you can see here, the quadratic equation is already written in standard form where a is positive 1. That's the coefficient of x squared here. B is positive 13, that's the coefficient of x, and C is the constant term, which is positive 12. And then you just put that in the formula. The formula or the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative, that's going to be negative of b, so negative of 13, plus or minus the square root of b squared. So b is 13, so 13 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 12, over 2 times a, and a is 1, so 2 times 1. And then just simplify. 13 squared is 169. Negative 4 times 1 times 12 is negative 48. 169 minus 48 is 121, and square root of 121 is 11. So we have x equals negative 13 plus or minus 11 over 2. And then we can split that into 2. 1 is minus, 1 is plus. So for the minus, we have x equals negative 13 minus 11 over 2. And for the plus, we have x equals negative 13 plus 11 over 2. Negative 13 minus 11, that's negative 24. Negative 24 over 2, that is negative 12. For the second one, negative 13 plus 11, that's negative 2. And negative 2 over 2, that's negative 1. So we have negative 12 and negative 1. If you want to check if your answer is correct, you can just replace these values in x here, and then check if you will have a true mathematical statement. For example, negative 12. Negative 12 squared is 144 plus 13 times negative 12. That's going to be 156. And then that's going to be negative 12 now. So 144 minus 156, that's negative 12, plus 12 is 0. So this negative 12 is a correct answer. How about if you have negative 1? Negative 1 squared is positive 1. So 13 times negative 1 is negative 13. So 1 minus 13 is negative 12, plus 12 is indeed 0. So negative 1 is also a correct answer. Example number 2. Solve by using the quadratic formula x squared minus 11x equals negative 18. As what you can see here, the given equation is not in standard form. The standard form has to be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That means to say all the terms are on the left side while 0 is left on the right. So we need to transfer this negative 18 to the left so that we will have x squared minus 11x plus 18 equals 0. What is a? A is the coefficient of x squared, so that is 1. How about b? B is the coefficient of x, so that is negative 11. And what is C? C is the constant term, so C is positive 18. So take note that before you identify your A, B, and C, your equation has to be in standard form. And then we can already use those values, 1, negative 11, and 18, to the quadratic formula. And we will have x equals negative of b. So negative of negative 11 plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Negative of negative 11 is positive 11. Negative 11 squared is 121. Negative 4 times 1 times 18 is negative 72, and 2 times 1 is 2. And then 121 minus 72 is 49. Square root of 49 is 7. And we can split this. X is equal to 11 plus or minus 7 over 2. We can split this into x equals 11 minus 7 over 2, or x equals 11 plus 7 over 2. 11 minus 7 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then 11 plus 7 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So the two answers are 2 and 9. Let's try to check if our answers are correct. If x is 2, we will have 4 here minus 22, because 11 times 2 is 22. Is that negative 18? Yes, meaning to say this is correct. If this is 9, 9 squared is 81. Minus 9 times 11, that's 99. Is this negative 18? Yes, it's also correct. So we have 2 and 9 for the values of x. Example number 3. Solve by using the quadratic formula. 3x squared equals x plus 2. So again, this is not in standard form. Rewrite this in standard form by adding negative x minus 2 to both sides of the equation, or simply say transfer x and 2 to the left. So we have 3x squared minus x minus 2. And then we can already identify our a, b, and c. So a is the coefficient of x squared, that is 3. B is the coefficient of x, so that's negative 1. C is the constant term, so that is negative 2. And then use the quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative of negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, and c, which is negative 2, all over 2a. And a is positive 3. And then simplify. Negative of negative 1 is positive 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 2 is positive 24. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 plus 24 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. So we have 1 plus or minus 5 over 6. And we can split that into 2. X is 1 minus 5 over 6, or 1 plus 5 over 6. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. We can simplify that by dividing both the numerator and denominator by 2. We will get negative 2/3. And for the second one, we have 1 plus 5 is 6. And then 6 divided by 6, that is 1. So we have two answers here. Negative 2/3 and 1. Example number 4. Solve by using the quadratic formula x squared minus 2x plus 5 equals 0. This is already in standard form, and our a is positive 1, b is negative 2, and c is positive 5. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that is negative of negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared. This is b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So negative of negative 2 is positive 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 times 5 is negative 20. 4 minus 20 is negative 16. Square root of negative 16 is not a real number. So we can say here that the quadratic equation, the given quadratic equation, has no real roots. But if you want to get the roots, the complex roots, then we can have negative square root of negative 16 as square root of 16 times square root of negative 1. That's going to be positive or negative 4i. So 2 plus or minus 4i over 2. Split that into 2. You will have 2 minus 4i over 2 or 2 plus 4i over 2. And then divide both 2 and negative 4i by 2. You will get 1 minus 2i, and for the second one, 1 plus 2i. So these are the complex solutions to this quadratic equation. But from here, as what you can see, you already have a square root of a negative number. You can conclude that this quadratic equation has no real solutions. Number 5. Solve by using the quadratic formula x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. This is in standard form where a is 1, b is negative 6, and c is 7. So same quadratic formula, negative of b plus or minus b square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Negative of negative 6 is positive 6. Negative 6 squared is positive 36. Negative 4 times 1 times 7 is negative 28. 2 times 1 is 2. 36 minus 28 is 8, and square root of 8 is not a rational number. So we can simplify that. Square root of 8 is square root of 4 times 2. That's square root of 4, square root of 2. And square root of 4 is 2, this one. So 2 square root of 2. And then you can split that into 2. One is 6 minus, the other one is 6 plus. And then divide both the numerator by 2. You will have 6 divided by 2, that's 3. Negative 2 square root of 2 divided by 2, that's negative square root of 2. For the second one, 6 divided by 2, 3, and then 2 square root of 2 divided by 2 is square root of 2. So these are the answers. These two numbers are real numbers, but they are not rational. So they are two irrational numbers. Okay, so those are the 5 examples. This time, you have a practice set number 1. We have here 5 items. And if you want to answer more, there's another set. Solve each of the following quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. So don't forget the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So number 1, x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. Number 2, x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Number 3, x squared minus 4x plus 13 equals 0. Number 4, x squared minus 10x plus 23 equals 0. And number 5, 6x squared minus 13x plus 2 equals 0. So pause the video. Okay, so the answers are number 1, negative 3 and 7. Check your answers and let's see if you can get a perfect score. Number 2, negative 3 or negative 2. Number 3, we don't have real roots. So the complex roots are 2 minus 3i and 2 plus 3i. Number 4, we have irrational roots. These are 5 minus square root of 2 and 5 plus square root of 2. And for number 5, we have 1/6 or positive 2. So if you got perfect in this, you may not need to solve more items because it just tells us that you already know how to solve quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. But for those who want to continue, there are still 5 more items. Solve each of the following quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. Number 1, x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. Number 2, x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Number 3, x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 0. Number 4, x squared minus 8x plus 7 equals 0. And lastly, number 5, x squared plus 10x plus 26 equals 0. So please pause the video and play if you're ready to check your answers. Number 1, we have 2 or 6. Number 2, negative 4 or 1. Number 3, negative 5. We have negative 5 and negative 5. Number 4, 4 minus square root of 3 or 4 plus square root of 3. And number 5, we don't have real roots, so the complex roots are negative 5 minus I or negative 5 plus I. So that's it for this video on solving quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. Continue to support FatMath TV. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe. Bye!